you everyone for coming. Uh, Thank you all for coming here today. So for my project, I labeled it DUSC Dawns for my virtual art gallery. Just a little bit of heads up for this presentation. We will have questions towards the end, and just keep those in mind as we're going through these slides and talking about the pieces that I worked on. We will have a live chat going that I can look at those and address those towards the end and go back to any works that you might want to see more of. So starting off on this main slide here, I just want to give a little bit of presentation and introduction to what this project was about. DUSC stands for our Doan University Support Center, which is a part of the help desk, or what the technology help desk will be changing to eventually. This project was designed for the Tiger Tech help desk in hopes to help bring about a little bit of gamification to the workplace area. And for a little bit of background on that, gamification is the idea of bringing game-like elements and materials into a workplace to help introduce productivity and make the workplace environment a little bit more fun and exciting. So for this project, I worked to develop the user interface and design for a app that would help us bring in those game elements to our everyday workflow and make it a little bit easier for the student technicians and senior support technicians that work at the Doan Help Desk. So without further ado, we'll get into this. Again, we don't have to go over this entirely, but this is my artist statement, which has a little bit more in-depth background on what this project was for and how it came about a couple of years ago and how I decided to take it on for my senior art graphic design exhibition. And we'll get into a little bit of the styling and design choices that I made for this project. So we'll move on to the first piece here. So in this first gallery here, we have all of the logo decisions that I worked on. This first one here is going to be for our horizontal logo. The nice thing about this project was that for the app, it will be self-contained inside of the help desk and the Doan environment. So a lot of the style design and thought process, I could be a little bit more open and lenient towards, and not have to follow all the style guide demands that Doan usually has for their designs that are open to the public and for like advertising in that form. So with this self-contained project, I was able to look into working on a more retro game aesthetic that helped with the linking the fun into a technology environment, because most of the time at the help desk we think about the older retro games because that's near and dear to most of us there. So for this first slide here, we have the logo at a larger scale, and then on the right hand here, we have the other considerations for color changing options. And as the work flows from top to bottom in that right column there, we have the orange logo, and then below it will be grayscale, which for the design consideration of this, since most of these logos are going to be self-contained within a digital environment, that's something we don't I didn't have to worry about as much when I was working on the design for this logo. I was able to focus more on which exact colors I wanted and thought worked best with the app and the overall production, just because I knew that there wouldn't be as many print material that would need to go out into production once this app would be up and running. But on top of that, I also wanted to consider what this logo would look like if it ever needed to be added to a document that needed to be printed out and didn't have the user wouldn't have the ability to print it in color, just to see how the contrast looked. And then also I did at the very bottom here, the one color with black and white that is open to being changed to just an all orange or the purples. So on top of that, we'll go back here and look at the same kind of thing going on with this piece is just the logo, but in a vertical format. This one is used a lot more inside of my design choices, just because of the fact that this project was looking at the user interface and user experience for a mobile app, which would be in a vertical format. But on top of that, the horizontal was necessary for consideration because we currently have a WordPress website that uses a different design style, but eventually could be updated with all of these assets that I worked on. And again, at the bottom here, we have the running row of orange and grayscale, and then purple and grayscale, and then the one color option that users would be able to choose from when designing, working on this design more and expanding the project if that ever became something the help desk would want to look into. So then again here, more of the assets I had to work on for this app was just the emblem and doing that same kind of one color grayscale. And for this one, the full color is just used once because I didn't have any variation between changing the shield and in the center there, the lightning bolt. The original design for this that we got was a commission inside of Dawns where the original emblem that I worked off of was just a shield with a lightning bolt inside of it. And since I knew I was going for the retro 8-bit aesthetic, I wanted to rework that logo, but it still had a good design quality and simplicity that could work well both in a large format and shrunk down for the app and for assets inside of the app, which we'll see in the next few slides. So moving on to the next room, a lot of fun I had with this was actually GIFing all of these assets that I was working with. So on the right and left here, you're going to see the emblem that I worked on GIFing for this presentation, working in a large and small format. This was by far one of the most interesting things I had to do for this project because I wanted to flip it like a coin. So it forced me to think about how that shield would rotate and creating each frame by frame action for rotating the shield. And to hint on that idea of how it could be used, I had it on the sides of these slideshows as like a load screen, which you would see in a typical game, or in the bottom right-hand corner when you're waiting for something to update inside of a game, you would usually see a GIF like this playing on loop until the next page is loaded in, or whatever you had been working on when trying to go through the app. So right here, we have in the center the horizontal GIF that I worked on. So this horizontal GIF I created so it could be used for, oops, sorry, too many rooms ahead. This horizontal GIF format I created for the load between screens and like the startup of the app in some pages, just because most apps, when you start them up, have some form of a design quality that shows you the app is running and it's starting up for getting everything like signing in the users and creating that environment that welcomes the user into the piece itself. So going back here on the next screen, I did another GIF for a vertical presentation of the logo sliding in and out. So this is something that I used for a couple of the video assets that I created that we'll see here in a little bit. For the horizontal and vertical logo, I knew that I wanted to create something that was simplistic, which followed the style and limitations of those 8-bit games, where they didn't have as much space and memory to hold all of those assets to loading. So just a simple having the text slide in and the logo spinning and appearing was enough to bring back that quality of the aesthetic of the 8-bit games. So for my next part of the piece, I created a video which would demonstrate the sprites that are a part of the app. So the sprites for this game would be used in developing each user's profile. So you'll see this in the demonstration of the app that I created. But for this video specifically, it'll go through the animations that these avatars have and a few of the different styles that I worked on when creating the users, and specifically a drawback to the, or a add-on to the game would be the tigers that you can see in this video. So I will play that. Yeah, so for that video, if there was a little bit of delay because of the stream, again, this slideshow will be available after the full presentation, so you can go through it at your own pace and maybe without any kind of delay from the stream. But in going over this video, I just wanted to talk about uh, how thinking about sprites, I had never actually worked with that kind of asset before, because I haven't done any thought like game design before coming here. So it was really interesting and fun to work on the sprites in particular because, like the emblem, you had to think about the 360 profile of the GIF, and on top of that, with the avatar, I had to work a lot on creating not only just a standing GIF, but also I wanted to create some form of animation to make it look like they were walking. That the user, when in looking at the app, has something a little bit more interesting and appealing when they go from page to page between their app. It'll add a little bit more of the appeal and have that game quality of um, the sprites moving with the user as they're going from um, each individual page or from different assets. So um, again, if you want to watch the video again, or we might go back to it later once we're looking at questions, we can go over that video again. And then next for the presentation, I had a video trailer, I would suppose, of the app working and using the visual assets that I created for the user interface and user experience. So we'll just watch this again. Okay. So that was the app demo, just kind of going through the user interface and workflow of the app when it was playing. So I'm going to pause the video here and mute it, just so I can talk through a little bit of what's going on here. So in this first image, I wanted to showcase a phone screen and what the app would look like. Just having the title of DUSC for the icon that's visible on your home screen. And then something we can go back in and look at, but showing that the icon or emblem that was created for the logo works well inside of this smaller app format, and creating a little bit of a shadow to give it depth on top of the app and how most apps look now. And then for this, again, showing like that load screen and the use of those GIFs that were created that I showed earlier for working through the app. And then this screen in particular would be the user login screen. For the creation of this app, I wanted to showcase in the trailer that the first time here you would the user would be required to log in with their password and hit enter. But then further down the line here, when let's see further into the video, here when the app gets started up again, it plays through the loading screen, but then jumps immediately into the user space, because with the app, I wanted to think about what the user would experience after loading in, having the app record their information and save it so that it's the one-time login unless you choose to sign out of the app and kind of sign back in later. So let's go back here to the sign in. So once they click enter, it prompts the user to choose an avatar just between the two options of the more male and female leaning options. But again, once the user chooses that, then they can go through and customize what they want their avatar to look like to match them when they're going through the app creation. And then here we have the user first being introduced to their tiger. And something that would be created and showcased is that the tiger also has different variants of colors. So looking back into how this app is going to be utilized as a game to incentivize work at the help desk, it'll help to reinforce the idea of gamification inside of the help desk by having different things that the users can work towards. On this home page, you can see at the top the character's name along with their specific amount of points that they currently have. And by default, the app would have this setup of an orange tiger and then the default clothing of the logo shirt and black pants and black shoes. And then once the user starts to gain points, we can skip ahead to the shop. For the shop screen, I still wanted to have the user be visible when scrolling through the shop, so you could get an idea of what you would want to purchase with your points when wanting to update or modify your avatar inside of the app. And there's a few options that I created, which would be just brown hair, yellow hair, and orange hair. And then on top of that, I created a white t-shirt with like a red trim. And then that's also a trim with blue and green for the optional shirts. And then I also created the different pants that are available, which would be black jeans, shorts, and pants, along with blue like jean shorts or pants. And then shoes, additionally, I did a red, a green, and a blue option for the users to customize and swap out as they please with their avatar. And then for the next page here, one of the requirements for this app would be that the users or student technicians would be able to look at the points and rankings just to help bring about a more competitive work environment for just being able to show off that, hey, I've earned all these points by completing this work. And on top of that, which is something we've already implemented in the website that was created previously. So this page would be going through the individual points for each user, and for each user, you would see just their icon and points above them. And then something I haven't talked about also, in the bottom loading screen, or in the bottom of the screen here, for each screen that you're on, I decided to have each icon for the navigation between the screens. When you're on that particular screen, the icon will be a little bit darker and feel more filled in, and then the other screens that aren't currently being used will be faded out just to show that they're not the ones being showcased at that moment. Another difference that you might have noticed is that this would be the day version of the app, or the light mode, because most IT, we do actually like to consider whether or not working in the dark mode or light mode. That was kind of a big thing that I wanted to think about, because I, on most of my devices, like to use the night mode, which would be this option further here, which I made a star background that has the stars twinkling in and out of the background to just give that night mode kind of feel and be a little bit more interesting to look at than just a blank purple screen with the lighting on the back. And likewise, if you didn't catch it in between the video, the day mode has the clouds that shift back and forth just to add that element of interest that's happening and to keep the user a little bit more entertained when looking at the different designs that are inside of the app. So going back to the point system, I've already showcased that there's going to be some in-game points, like some in-game options to create points or to spend your points for modifying the avatar and modifying your tiger, changing its fur color just to like zany other like red or a green tiger. That would be something that could motivate users to work more to gain points and spend them on showing off their cool avatars and tigers that they have worked really hard to make exactly how they wanted. So in the next room, these are the physical pieces that would be offered to the student workers as incentives for points. It would be up to the discretion of the senior support technicians, but they would be able to prescribe a specific amount of points, and if a user chose to do so, they could have a commission of these posters where they could change it so it's their avatar and their associated tiger. So for the first one here, just a little bit more detailed view. It has the title at the top, Adventure Awaits, and you would just see the back of your avatar's head and the tiger in the bottom corner, along with the icons of the logo just being shrunk in the back as a little bit more of the design towards the completion of the DUSC app. And then this one too would be one of the other options that just showcases the different available styles that users could change their avatar to look like and their tiger. So in the next room, we have the night version of the Adventure Awaits. Again, just showing off the avatar and the twinkling lights in the background for the stars. And this one is just another kind of option for changing your avatar to look how you wanted with your points that are available. And for these posters, I wanted to make them fairly simplistic just for the fact of each avatar is going to have a different look and feel based off of how each person decides to customize the way their avatar looks. And I wanted to make these posters very simplistic to add and edit the avatar to look specifically like the user that is putting in the commission for their poster. So it's just a little bit easier for the senior technicians when they need to go get these printed off for points. And then likewise on this last slide here, I wanted to, again, go back to the retro aesthetic and pay homage to an older game and making a It's Dangerous to Go Alone, Take This poster with the tiger, just to have another third option of physical prizes that could be gifted out to students for completing tasks and turning in points. Again, this one, like the previous poster, is fairly simplistic for the sake of changing out the tiger for each user if they wanted to make it look like the tiger that they currently have. That's something I wanted to think about. And this would be one of the instances where I use the one color for the physical posters, just so it's set in the back a little bit more and not taking over the whole poster with just the in-your-face bright yellow and orange of the lightning bolt, having the one color black emblem just kind of felt a little bit more concise with the design and lean towards this top text of the It's Dangerous to Go Alone. So with that, I'd like to take some questions and go over anything else if people had more pieces they wanted to see more detail on or had anything they wanted to talk about. Oh, thank you, Cross. For the color palette, I started off with the emblem, actually, looking at the original design of the lightning bolt and shield. The orange is always the Dawn color that's prominent with our typical design, so I wanted to keep that. But along with the yellow and the purples that I chose, I decided to look towards the pure hues that would be used in retro games to have that bright, playful feel that most games have, especially with like these GIFs, the green background that's also used for the grass inside of the game has a little bit more whimsy and fun, I would say, because of the brighter colors and the varying checkered pattern for the background. And then along with the reds and the blues of the tigers, it was just thought of looking at those pure, like the pure red, pure yellow, and pure blue, just so they stand out a little bit more, and it made it more interesting to have a variance in tiger that you wouldn't normally see, just playing to that fantasy aspect of video games where it can kind of be whatever you want, and it's decided on the user of what they think would look best or what they like. And while we're on top of the posters, I also wanted to go over the typeface that I created when going over this. The typeface started with the logo, wanting to create those pixelated DUSC, but then I had to go through and create the whole alphabet that could be used for creating more assets for this app in the future. With the design, I wanted to create a monospace typeface that just went back to the old like computer like command or control panel kind of stuff where all the spacing is even, and it just makes it look a little bit more cleaner and brings out that feel of a retro game where everything is perfectly aligned. And then as it was shown in the video for the app here, I also went and found a previously made typeface just for the customize your avatar, like the smaller assets that would have, it would take a little bit more time to create than just a, like the bag header per se, or the shop. Those all were created like letter by letter, just like spacing everything by hand. Whereas the hair color options and the shirt, that was done with a pre-made typeface, so I didn't have to focus so much on changing the letters and formatting it perfectly. Yeah. Okay, for that question from Alec, thank you. For accessible design, I wanted to, again, use the brighter, more distinct colors when it came to creating the reds and blues and yellows for the tigers, and the hair colors, especially like looking at how the avatars are created. I picked very distinct hues for each pixel, just so that helped with when it got shifted to a grayscale. There was a definite distinction between the darker and the lighter, and the darks and the lights with the pixelated avatars along with the tigers, just to show that contrast when if there were any problems with that. Oh, and So if you hadn't seen it before, this project was a lot of fun, actually, just because I got to work on it for both of my majors. I'm also a information systems major, so for that part of my senior project, I was able to create or work on creating an app that did more of the functionality that this app would create, in hopes that I could then bring these designed components for the user interface and design into the app at the end of the project. Would be my hope when this app would be created. Just thinking about what I needed also from a computer science perspective helped me decide what was a necessary factor and what probably wasn't necessary, so I didn't fall down the rabbit hole of designing these characters and making all of these funds assets, but not having a lot of the functionality that the app would actually need for being useful to the help desk when using it. And like for this project, I knew that making a game, the final like project that I would do for my senior year, would be one of the best ways to kind of bring together the fun of my two majors of graphic design and information systems, where I could use both of the computing components and the design components into something that would have an actionable response in the real world once I graduated. This is something that I would like to see other students being able to take on and use what I've already created to build off of it and keep the app flowing and changing as the years go by. That was a big consideration for both of the projects in my eyes, just because I knew that there are a lot of students that work at the help desk, not all of them being IST majors, but a majority of them are IST. And this is something that any of them could take on for a senior project. And if even a design student wanted to take this on, this is something that they could look at expanding, creating NPCs, like non-playable characters that would run the shop and sell you things, or just creating more outfits or avatar designs or hairstyles would be something that could grow this app and change. I don't see it as a fixed, this is done now. I see this app more of as a living work that can change and evolve over the years. So thank you, Katie Leibman, for the team nature of the students and staff. A lot of our students, we look at the point system when we are working, but as far as I've seen while working there, it's never been a super competitive style, like feeling of, oh, this person has the most points, so I need to one-up them in some way, shape, or form. It's actually been a lot more helpful in like bringing the students together when working on projects, because we started developing group chats for splitting up our student workers into teams and delegating the teams to have a leader of each team. is something that we also looked into and have implemented inside of the help desk. And the team aspect of it has actually, I think, been helpful because I never feel uncomfortable. And I know I've seen students feel more comfortable in sending in text messages to the group chat of, hey, I have this user with this problem and I'm not quite sure how to handle this. How would any of you handle this? Or would you be able to help me work through this? And it's definitely helped us talk and have a better workplace communication, because it's something we can all kind of understand that we are here to lean on each other and ask for help when we need it. That has been one of the nicer things I've seen. And growing up, like from being a freshman to a senior now, working at the help desk since my freshman year, it was, I understand, like scary starting a job, not having any IT experience, and then going to being a senior where you're the oldest member of the team. And I don't claim to know everything, but still having like underclassmen come help me or ask me for help has been really nice to see, because I'm glad that they're not scared to talk with one another and ask for help when it's needed. And I think this app would be a great way to help that. Riley. Yeah, so for this project, some of the things that I would like to add, just like I stated a little bit before, would be just adding the more avatar options would be nice. Another thing I would like to see adding would be coming into the animations for the avatars and tigers. I know something nice to see would be bringing about more options for like idle animations when you're not using your avatar, maybe having him or her check her phone or look at look at their phone, or doing something more interactive towards the tiger to make it feel more physically and like inviting and fun, like seeing the tiger pounce and run around in circles around the avatar would be fun to do. Like I said, this project, I would like to see it as a living, breathing work that other students could pick up and continue after I've graduated. And that was one of the bigger draws of this project that made me really happy to work on it and start all the foundation work for any student that would be coming in the future. So are there any other questions we have? I know we've got 10 minutes left still here. Or anything else you would like to see or have an explanation on, I would be happy to while we're still here. For plans on applying this work to shows or continuing this work further, I know that something that would be helpful for the DUSC workspace would be just compiling all of these things that I made and making a document or a style guide for how these pieces would be used and how they were created, and compacting all the files together. So like I said earlier, when the senior support specialists need to go ahead and print off posters per se and edit the posters, or have something changed for a specific user who chose to like purchase one with their points, that would be something that I know I would like to have ready to hand down to ease that workflow for the senior technicians. I know a lot of planning I would like to have go into this towards the end when I'm handing it off, just so there aren't any hiccups when it comes to having the app in development and when they need to go to expand the app a little bit further and bring in whatever the other students would like to see into the app. Thank you. So for this presentation, when you get a chance, you can feel free to check out the link that will be posted at the end of the presentation here. Feel free to go through the slides and look a little bit more in depth at all of the posters and the work that I made. Yep, just posted up at the top there. That'll be the link for my presentation. So feel free to look at that. And this recording will still be available on YouTube and Facebook if you have other people you want to show or go back to it to hear an explanation for this show. So other than that, thank you all for coming to the show. I know circumstances weren't great with COVID. It would be nice to see everyone in person, but I'm glad that we were still able to make this happen now. And thank you all for supporting me and helping me, especially Zach and James and AJ at the help desk for helping me work on this app and figure out what I needed to do to make something for our students to use and still be applicable and changeable for the future. So thank you all for coming. It was nice having this show and all the work. So